Hello everyone, it's Dan from 1, and today I want to talk about computers, and particularly this one. This might not look particularly intriguing or interesting, but believe me, it is. It's a Soviet ZX Spectrum. Well, actually not quite Soviet, it's made in 1983, but still it's pretty close because it uses mostly Soviet components. And the second thing I want to talk about is this guy. It's an electronic monitor made in 1990. It's pretty cool looking. Of course, it's not an original design, because by that time Soviet Union was pretty short on computers. But it would be interesting to get them working.
Yes, sorry for looking a bit delayed there. So I've been at a recycling facility recently. It has mostly useless electronics that are not working or not interesting in the slightest. But it also has computer stuff and this giant pile of electronics at the entrance, which is like 2 meters tall and 4 meters across, which has all sorts of junk, but also has some treasures, as this Spectrum was found in this exact pile, along with the monitor. Visually, the monitor was pretty appealing, at least for a recycling center, so it just needed some minor work done to it. However, it's pretty different for the ZX Spectrum. Until the label fell off, it wasn't very clear how dirty the plastic really was, but it's pretty yucky. Also, the Samsung sticker is hilarious. Most of the grime came off without an issue though. And you can see how dirty this cleaning tissue is just after a few swipes. So I would want to compare how it looked before and after. Yeah, that's a pretty big difference. So the logical thing to do now would be to take it apart and take a look inside, and that's exactly what I did. Well, this wiring job certainly doesn't look factory, and the board actually looks like something you would find in the 70s. So what's going on here?
Apparently, this board was designed in the late 1980s and early 1990s by just one man by the name of Sergei Zonov in his spare time. By the account of the man himself, the board costed around 130 rubles, which is like a monthly salary, and it sold around 10,000 to 100,000 units. Also want to mention that you had to buy this keyboard separately for around 60 rubles, which is half the cost of the computer, and the case also comes separately. And keep in mind, you still have to solder it all yourself, which is pretty terrifying if you're a beginner in soldering.
Well, looking at this board, it's not immediately obvious what is what, except for the CPU, which is called KR1858, which is actually a Z80 replacement and not a direct clone. This particular one appears to be made in January 1993, which is pretty early in the production run. Other notable chip is the ROM and 64K of RAM. Other ones just appear to be logic chips, as there's hardly any information about them.
Where the first issue is to power it on. In my case, the middle pin was the ground and the left and right pins are the power. Strangely enough, the chassis isn't the ground in this case. For the power, I used this chopped up USB cable, and the power LED actually came to life, which is a good sign. However, it displayed this garbage pattern on the screen, which internet told me is called the matrix pattern. It's apparently a sign of not enough power. So it was just Chinese power supply and made the enclosure from the box it came in, and also given it the appropriate name. Well, it's a different pattern, but nothing better really. Actually, it's a different pattern every time I turn the computer on. I think the ROM is the culprit. Well, sometimes it is, and sometimes there's still garbage, despite no ROM being in the socket, which tells me it's probably the RAM.
Well, right now I have the parts, but not the equipment to install them. So, let's take a look at this monitor instead.
So, to turn the monitor on, you would need a power supply, which is where the problems began. If you look at the rear of the monitor, you will see two ports, which look equally as bizarre. One is an antenna jack, which despite that carries a composite signal, and another one is a crazy 7-DIN power connector, which matches up with the video output on my ZX Spectrum, although it's not compatible. This port can actually accept both power and video if you wire it up correctly.
At first I tried looking the schematic up for the monitor, and well, this is pretty unreadable, even for me. Then I took it apart to see it for myself, which confused me even more, because all the wires on the power port actually go to ground. Eventually, with the help from the forums, I was able to figure out that this blue wire is in fact ground, this pink wire is 12 volts, and this is a video signal, and if you mix them up, you fry the whole circuit. I decided to test it along with the ZX Spectrum, so I made this cable adapter that goes right here. The monitor is powered from a power supply I was using until a week ago. So it's time to power it on. But because I don't have a phone mount, I duct taped my phone to the tripod, and this photo was taken with my grandma's phone. Here's the smoke test. And well, that's good and bad news. Good news is it's somewhat working. Bad news is it's just a single pixel line on the screen, which tells me that the vertical deflection circuit isn't functioning properly. Let's take it apart. All those metal cylinders are the original 1990 capacitors, which could be the cause of an issue. The right one looks like it's bulging pretty hard. And those capacitors are the same value, but the replacement is about 20 years newer. And here they are next to each other. We all ran out of capacitors, and the ones I installed didn't help much. In fact, the line is even smaller now, which is probably due to different capacitor values. But even after I bought and installed the rest of the capacitors, it didn't work much better.
Well, what do I have at the end of this episode? Well, neither the PC or the monitor are particularly working, however, I already got the equipment, so the part 2 will be filmed in a short time. At least that's what I hope for. Also, sorry for the whole schizophrenia look on my face, because I haven't done that in 7 years. And for the whole 8-bit gag knockoff aesthetic. So anyways, guys, see you in part 2, I catch you next time.